warm welcome to you. This is Ogtv Main News. I am Bukola Agbakisu. Thanks so much for joining us. On the news, Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 lauds Ogun State Government's proactive steps. House of Representatives passes vote of confidence on African Development Bank president. Nigerian Air Force records first all-female crew on surveillance mission. Italy reopens borders to tourists. Another Premier League player tests positive for coronavirus. The key to success is to focus on goals, not obstacles. Now the news in full. The Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 is happy with the steps taken by the government of Ogun State to curb the spread of the virus, and the federal government will be supporting the state with funds because the state took the burden of addressing the outbreak since the index case in February. This came to the fore when the representative of Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 met with the governor of Ogun State, Prince Dapo Abiodun, in his office. Governor's office correspondent Tunde Olaniran reports that the Presidential Task Force urged other states of the Federation to replicate Ogun State in their states in terms of fight against COVID-19. His reports.
The Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 is a coordinating interministerial team against the spread of the virus. The PTF team to Ogun State is led by Dr. Faisal Shuaib, the Executive Director, National Primary Health Care Development Agency, and it was all commendation for the Ogun State government.
The Presidential Task Force is happy with the response of Ogun State to the outbreak, to the COVID-19 outbreak, and that the federal government will be supporting Ogun State with funding because Ogun State took on the burden of addressing this outbreak right from when it started in February. We know some of the steps that Ogun State took, and because of those steps, we've seen an outbreak that is not as huge as if that initial responses were not well done. So we want to thank Ogun State on behalf of all Nigerians for the leadership that was shown from the early days.
Dr. Shuaib applauds the governor of Ogun State, Prince Abiodun, for bringing his private sector experience to bear in the state, especially in the fight against COVID-19.
So that we'll have more regular interface, not only about any gaps whatsoever, but to see how some of the learnings from Ogun State can be replicated in other states that probably are facing some of the challenges that you've already overcome. We are mindful that you did not have so much time to prepare for this outbreak. So you have actually responded and prepared at the same time for this outbreak. How well you have done is remarkable.
The governor further highlights the things that have been put in place to effectively contain the virus.
The logical thing is to continue testing because the people were testing as of contact tracing. So you're able to trace them, you're able to test them, you're able to isolate them, you begin treatment. And you hope that as you isolate and treat people, you are reducing the chances of them infecting other people. So we continue to test, even though the numbers have been ramping up. And in answer to that, the fact that we have to worry about capacity, capacity. Today we probably have about 400 beds, between Shagamu, Ikene, the infectious disease hospital. We now turned an event center, not far from here as well, to also another facility. So all our facilities are structured. They have bathrooms, they have toilets, clean bathrooms, clean toilets, accommodation for staff. So we have about 400 bed capacity.
He stresses that some primary health centers have also been turned into first respondents in terms of isolation and treatment.
But we will continue to want to promote people to come here. And for as long as we continue to do that, there's some things that we must provide for them. We must provide security for them. We must provide quality health care for them. We must provide education for their children. Provide other employment for their wives. And so we are very committed to providing health care because for us is one of the reasons why we continue to promote people to come to the state. So you can be rest assured that we'll be worthy partners.
The governor reiterated the commitment of his administration to ensure that all its citizens live healthy and strong. Tunde Olaniro, Ogtv News.
Similarly, the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 has commended Ogun State government for domesticating its response in the fight against the novel coronavirus in the state. The team leader of the task force, Dr. Fasai Shuaibu, gave the commendation during a visit to the State Ministry of Health in Okimoso, Abeokuta. Yusuf Ganion reports.
That was the arrival of Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 to Ogun State Ministry of Health, basically to see the level at which the state government is addressing the COVID-19 pandemic in the state. While giving an overview on 7 pillars used to coordinate a multidisciplinary and multisectoral response of the COVID-19 outbreak, which includes surveillance, risk communication, logistics, case management, laboratory, among others, the State Commissioner of Health, Dr. Tomi Kuka, says since the outbreak of the virus, all efforts are geared towards ensuring the spread is curtailed.
We realized that to actually disseminate the IPC training and risk communication, we didn't have enough workforce. And we set up a rapid response team in every local government so that nothing is centralized, that what we do is coordinate from the central point. And the rapid response team included the medical officer of health, a DSNO, lab scientist, and also the Apex nurse.
The team leader of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, Dr. Faisal Shuaib, appreciates the state government for taking the bull by the horn in managing the situation of COVID-19 at different contexts.
We also identify that you have brought every level of care, primary, secondary, and tertiary care, into this response. And this is exactly what we've been preaching right from the get-go, that this is a one health response, it is a one society response.
The team also proceeded to one of the COVID-19 treatment centers and the state specialist hospital in Okimoso, Abeokuta.
This is very impressive to see how this structure is now being converted for isolating and treating patients, especially patients in critical care. It's really amazing. I think this is a demonstration of the leadership of the executive governor, and we'll take this back to the Presidential Task Force to see what the state is doing and how the federal government can collaborate with the state government. So really, really impressive.
It was emphasized that with huge resources committed to the health sector, the sector will no doubt change and improve the health system during this COVID-19 and after in the state. Yusuf Ganiyu, Ogtv News.
Benue State Governor Samuel Otom has announced that the government has lifted the ban on churches and mosques. The governor also directed all civil servants in the state to resume work on Monday, June 8, 2020. Governor Otom, who announced a review of COVID-19 measures in line with the Presidential Task Force on the pandemic on Wednesday, said that churches and mosques are to hold staggered worship sessions. The governor explained that a church or mosque, which before now held 2 worship sessions, should henceforth conduct 4 or more sessions in a day to ensure physical distancing. He said each worship session must not last more than an hour. The United States has said that the ventilators promised by President Donald Trump will arrive in the country in 2 weeks. It, however, added that the delivery depended on production and shipping times. Trump had said his administration would send 250 ventilators to Nigeria and 1,000 units to South Africa, which has the highest COVID-19 cases in Africa. The U.S. Embassy in Nigeria on Monday said the ventilators would arrive by the middle of June. The U.S. president had on April 28 promised to send ventilators to Nigeria to assist in the treatment of COVID-19 cases in the country. But the U.S. mission was silent on the amount the federal government was expected to pay for the breathing equipment, which cost between $5,000 and $30,000, depending on the model, accessories, service plans, and shipping. Governor Dapo Abiodun of Ogun State has congratulated former House of Representatives member Honorable Abiodun Akinlade on his appointment as a board member of the Federal Character Commission, FCC. A statement by Governor Abiodun's Chief Press Secretary, Mr. Kunle Shomori, described the appointment as a further validation of the worth, selflessness, and people's orientedness of Honorable Akinlade, the governor prayed for divine wisdom, understanding, and knowledge from God to enable him succeed as the commissioner representing Ogun State at the FCC. A frontline member of All Progressives Congress in the state, Honorable Akinlade, the Babadini of Yewa land, is a three-term federal lawmaker who hails from Owode in Yewa South local government area of the state. Section 5 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, empowers the nation's president with an executive order to grant financial autonomy to the other two arms of government, the legislature and the judiciary. This is also supported by Section 121, subsection 3 of the same Constitution as amended. In this report, Peter Falomo seeks the opinion of some Nigerians on how the financial autonomy could effectively aid national development or jeopardize the nation's nascent democracy. This report.
On Friday, 22nd of May 2020, President Muhammadu Buhari signed into law an Executive Order Number 10 of year 2020 for the implementation of financial autonomy to states' legislature and the judiciary. According to him, the signing of the bill will bring to the fore a robust development that will enable the other two arms of government operate unilaterally towards fulfilling their statutory obligations.
We are committed to strengthening our democracy by ensuring separation of powers among the three tiers or arms of government, even at the state levels.
While expressing their views on the dynamism of this development, some Nigerians say it would enable the three arms of government to perform maximally if properly harnessed.
Ordinarily, where things work, where the constitution is so supreme and is in the mind of everybody and everybody obeys it, they should obey it naturally and not for we to wait for the executive order to come before we begin to obey it.
A lot of houses of assembly, they have been turned to an apron or an office under the office of the governors or the office of the president. A systemic work of a democracy is to ensure that we have an independent judiciary and also an independent legislature.
In more than 2 decades of Nigeria's democracy, how effectively will the oversight functions of the legislature be performed in the face of possible overbearing nature of the executive?
As we used to do it, the Nigeria factor will now be affected. That's where the clash of interest will come. But the clash of interest legalistically will never occur because you know your limits, I know my limits, you know your function, I know my function. But the clash of interest as per corruption will come in, because the business as usual will now be removed.
Any judge will now be totally loyal to the chief judge of the state, in the sense that the chief judge of the state is now in control of the fund. So if you now look at it from that angle, the influence by the executive will no longer be there.
The Nigerian leadership is also advised to clear the gray areas in financial policies and accountability if this autonomy would achieve the desired results.
In respect of their own spending, their own oversight function, you see, you cannot oversight on your own spending. The independence is not there. So that is the area where I say that the Presidential Committee on Implementation should also look into.
There is also the consensus that the leadership of the country needs to look into creation of some units from the executive arm of government to strengthen both the legislative and the judiciary arm of government for optimal functioning and for desired effects on the nation's democracy. Peter Falomo, Ogtv News.
Still ahead in the news, House of Representatives passes vote of confidence on President of African Development Bank, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina. Details after the break. Glad to have you back. The news continues. The late Chief Imam of Egbaland, Alhaji Liadi Orunsolu, is a God-fearing man and a staunch supporter of the current administration in Ogun State, whose wealth of experience will be sorely missed. The governor of Ogun State, Prince Dapo Abiodun, made the submission when he paid a condolence visit to the family of the deceased. Prince Dapo Abiodun said the late Chief Imam of Egbaland is dear to his heart. Prayers were offered for the repose of the soul and for Allah to comfort the family he left behind. The family of the deceased expressed appreciation to the governor for the visit while commending him on his achievements in his first year in office. In its efforts at ensuring quality and efficient schooling in Ogun State, the state government, through the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology, has inaugurated a 13-member committee that cuts across the 3 senatorial districts of the state. While underscoring the importance of the event, the special advisor to the state governor on primary and secondary education, Mrs. Ronke Shoyombo, said the committee was saddled with different responsibilities, such as overseeing the management side of the schools to support and challenge school senior leadership team, setting of strategic direction in schools, creating a robust accountability, ensuring financial probity, among others. Mrs. Shoyombo assured the committee that government was committed at ensuring that they are up to speed and effective in the roles by providing needed services to support them, urging them to always come up with ideas that are of paramount importance.
Forming governing body where we have a lot of old students in the midst, where we have philanthropists to be able to actually sacrifice. Not only that, we have PTA members within the group as well. And also we have a lot of ministry members. This is going to be very, very good because this was what actually helped UK schools, and it helped to move schools forward. When you set governing body, when you strengthen the relationship, when you strengthen the leadership of education in schools, each individual school will have targets, they'll be able to meet targets, they'll be able to know what the focus is, and at the end of the day, we're bringing in a lot of international practice as well.
Mrs. Shoyombo said the state government is committed to ensuring that the newly appointed committees are up to speed and effective in their roles as quickly as possible. She also added that Ogun State government has been able to achieve a lot within its first year of assumption of office with the renovation of primary schools, paying little allowances to schools for its running costs, Ogun DigiClass that was put in place during the pandemic period to catch up with mixed syllabus. Earlier in his welcome address, the Permanent Secretary, Mrs. Abosede Ogunleye, said that the initiative that brought in the committee was to ensure improved educational standard so that children and young people have the chance to realize their full potential. Chairman of the committee, Alhaji Adekunle Adegbite, described the occasion as a good intervention, promising to do all within their capacity to support the present administration in the state at ensuring qualitative teaching and learning in schools, while also canvassing for support from individuals, parents, Teachers Association PTA, Old Students Association, Royal Fathers, community leaders, and others. And from Abuja, the 11th meeting of the Federal Executive Council in the year 2020 has been held at the Presidential Villa, Abuja. President Muhammadu Buhari presided over the meeting, the third to be held virtually. Report has it that at the Executive Council chambers are Vice President Yemi Oshibajo, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Bosgida Mustafa, the Chief of Staff to the President, Ibrahim Gambari, and a few ministers. Other members of the highest policy decision-making body of the federal government are participating in the meeting from their various operational bases across the nation's capital in compliance with the social distancing guidelines and protocols aimed at minimizing the spread of COVID-19. Apart from considering memos for possible approval, some ministers also gave account of the stewardship to the council in furtherance of the next level agenda of the Buhari administration. The House of Representatives has passed a vote of confidence on the embattled president of the African Development Bank, Akinwumi Adesina. The lawmakers said his achievements in the last 5 years as president of AFDP speaks volume as the bank recorded great strides under his watch, meriting him an uninterrupted second tenure. This was sequel to a motion which came on the matter of urgent public importance by Honorable Ndudi Elumelu, the House Minority Leader, during plenary at the floor of the House. Honorable Elumelu, who called on African leaders to protect their own and avoid external interference by Europe and America, said the allegations against Dr. Adesina were frivolous.
Minister of Agriculture, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, was elected the presumptive president of the African Development Bank, emerging as the first Nigerian to hold this office. Further aware that African Development Bank, under the leadership of Dr. Adesina, has been very remarkable in steering the organization and its presence highly visible and impactful in less than 5 years of its headship. Concerned that recently, a group of whistleblowers petitioned Dr. Adesina accusing him of 16 breaches of the bank code of conduct. They have therefore resolved to urge the board of African Development Bank to halt all further investigation of the president, Aki Adesina, and let the rule of law prosper. 2, that this House do endorse Dr. Adesina's campaign for a second term at the head of Africa's largest multilateral lender and wish him a stable tenure ahead. Thirdly, that this House do urge the federal government to call on all African leaders to intervene and rally around him and see to the end of this lingering crisis. I so move.
Other lawmakers who contributed on the motion condemned the plot while insisting that Akinwumi deserves a second term based on his achievements in the past 5 years. The House therefore called for proper investigation to be carried out to enable them understand the politics of the attacks on him so that lawmakers can arrive at an informed decision. The Independent National Electoral Commission on Wednesday said postponing elections scheduled for this year due to the coronavirus pandemic would throw Nigeria into avoidable constitutional crisis. The Commission also stated that accreditation of journalists to cover the governorship elections in Ondo and Edo states, as well as by-elections lined up for this year, would be done online. INEC National Commissioner Festus Okoye stated this in his speech on the modalities for voter education and publicity activities during a virtual meeting with the media. Okoye said in such circumstances and situations, some countries and nations may buckle, throw in the towel in defeat and are completely overwhelmed, saying sometimes such situations throw up new players and spur creativity and innovation that accelerates development. He said the Commission is therefore determined to be part and indeed lead the process of innovation and creativity in the electoral process rather than throw in the towel and postpone all elections to an indeterminate period. The Commission is determined to proceed with the 2 end of tenure governorship elections in Edo and Ondo states and the Senate – and 10 senatorial and state assembly elections with caution, and 10 senatorial and state assembly elections with caution, and 10 senatorial and state assembly elections with caution, and 10 senatorial and state assembly elections with caution, and 10 senatorial and state assembly elections with caution, and 10 senatorial and state assembly elections with caution, and 10 senatorial and state assembly elections with caution, and 10 senatorial and state assembly elections with caution, and 10 senatorial and state assembly elections with caution, and 10 senatorial and state assembly elections with caution, and 10 senatorial and state assembly elections with caution, and 10 senatorial and state assembly elections with caution, and 10 senatorial and state assembly elections with caution, and 10 senatorial and state assembly elections with caution, and 10 senatorial and state assembly elections with caution, and 10 senatorial and state assembly elections with caution, and 10 senatorial and state assembly elections with caution, and 10 senatorial and optimistic, bearing in mind that the health and safety of the people will be crucial determinants of the success or otherwise of the elections. The Lagos State Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, Muyosore Onigbajo-San, says the state is yet to sign the contract for digitization of its courts because of the coronavirus pandemic. Onigbajo said the digitization of courts, which Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu's administration promised will be achieved in the first quarter of this year, was one of the state's projects hit by the pandemic. He said due to the pandemic, the equipment and the foreign experts to be deployed into court digitization projects had not been able to come into the country. He, however, said the administration was still determined to achieve its court digitization plan before the end of the year. Onigba just stated this on Wednesday at Alausa Ikeja during the ministerial press briefing to mark the first anniversary of Sanwo-Olu's administration. Asked if the state had fulfilled its promise to digitize courtrooms within the first quarter of 2020, Onigba just said, "That is one of our plans that COVID-19 affected a bit. We were to go on full-scale digitization at least by the end of this legal year, but because of the pandemic, we have not been able to conclude the contract to digitize the courts." The Attorney General also disclosed that steps were being taken to address the concerns raised by some lawyers on the constitutionality of virtual court hearings necessitated by the COVID-19 pandemic. He said as part of efforts to decongest prisons in the state, the government had filed applications to discontinue over 400 cases in both the magistrates and the high courts. The Office of the Attorney General of the Federation has taken over from the Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, the prosecution of the alleged Taraba State kidnapping kingpin, Bala Amiso, also known as Wadumi, along with 19 others. The IGP had on February 3, 2020, slammed 16 counts of terrorism, murder, kidnapping, and illegal arms running against the 20 defendants, among whom are 2 police officers and 10 soldiers. Only 6 of the 20 defendants, including Wadumi, were present in court on Wednesday. The 10 soldiers among the defendants were absent on Wednesday, a repeat of the scenario when the case was first mentioned in court on March 16, 2020. The lawyer who was then prosecuting the case on IGP's behalf, Simeon Lack, had informed the judge, Justice Binta Nyako, at the March 16 proceedings that the army had rebuffed repeated requests to release the soldiers for arraignment. This prompted the judge to order the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, to release the 10 defendants to the police. Meanwhile, the prosecuting counsel from the AGF office, Labaran Magaji, who appeared in the case for the first time on Wednesday, told Justice Nyako that his office took over the case and received the case file from the police on Tuesday. He requested an adjournment to enable him to make moves for the production of all the defendants in court. The rising cases of rape and sexual assaults in Nigeria, especially on minors, have been described as an alarming occurrence day after day. In this report, Peter Falomo takes a look at some of the causes, effects, the position of the law, and the rights of the victims as stipulated in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. His reports.
Rape and sexual assaults are oftentimes described as conscious process of intimidating females at different age grades, putting them in a state of constant fear. Those who spoke with Ogtv News described the dastard act as crimes that devalue and brought the victims to nothingness, thereby stigmatizing their emotions.
It's not a joking matter. It's a word that if you hear it, you are supposed to be crying. Because with the level of society now, we don't expect anybody to be involved in raping. It's not good, especially for our female children.
When you talk about sex, it's said to be the pride of a woman. Some woman pride with it that once anybody have it, it lost the value. Like the woman believes that he has lost the value of her life, or the man believes that he has lost the value of her life, because that's just a major thing. that individuals see as the most valuable aspect that everybody looks after or seeks after. So once that thing is gotten free of charge without your consent, it kind of leaves you being devastated.
Respondents urge that beyond the general belief, causing some men to rape and push it to unexplainable factors and sometimes blaming the devil, they believe that psychological problems aided by drugs and alcohol consumption most times affect their ways of thinking before committing the crime.
The irrational way of living life. Some people are not behaving well, and another thing is evil. Maybe, well, we may think maybe they belong to one or two bad gang or group that they believe that's the best thing to do.
But I would not want to look at the individual person. I want to look at the persons involved. Sometimes we are the people that expose ourselves to this. If you're dressed in a ways that are indecent and are attractive to some people, people that are natural will not have the self-control will want to hit back at you. There are so many men that apparently do not have the ability to woo a woman, but naturally they have the sexual drive in them and they need to gratify it. So how do they gratify it? They have to go do the forceful type.
Asked about the position of the law towards checkmating rape scandal and sexual assaults in the society, some legal practitioners speak.
Well, what the law says, you mean the punishment for the offense of rape, right, is just 7 years. But in my own view, I think that is not enough.
Aside, perhaps maybe the penalty is not deterrent enough. Maybe the law framers can look into it.
Should it be taken that the section of the law is enough for rapists or needed to be reviewed?
I will rather support if they can even get one of the stringent sentence for it. I will support it. I will support it. Life imprisonment, I think it's better.
They added that the judiciary needs to intensify efforts on speedy dispensation of justice on rape, scandal, and sexual assaults so as to checkmate the act in the society. Peter Falomo, Ogtv News.
The Nigerian Air Force has again made history with the conduct of an operational intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance mission by an all-female crew. The mission was conducted using the NAF Beechcraft King Air ISR aircraft with flying officers Oluwabumi Ijelu, Genevieve Nwagogo as captain and co-pilot, as well as Sergeant Njoku Patience as the Airborne Tactical Observation System mission operator, while Lance Corporal Shawulu Godiya served as the onboard technician. Welcoming the crew, the Commander 307 Executive Airlift Group, Air Commander Francis Edosa, said the feat was only made possible as a result of the commitment of the Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, to providing a level playing field for all personnel. In a statement by NAV Director of Public Relations and Information, Air Commander Ibikunle Daramola, the all-female crew mission covered selected areas of interest in Niger State and provided intelligence that supported NAV interdiction mission. The statement concludes that in the last 4.5 years of the current NAV leadership, there has been a surge in the involvement of female personnel in areas that were previously the preserve of men, with 5 female pilots winging within the period. Some gunmen in the early hours of Wednesday invaded Tudu village in Kajuru local government area of Kaduna State, killing no fewer than 9 persons. The latest killing is coming after an attack on some communities in the same local government where the Southern Kaduna People's Union alleged that no fewer than 30 decomposed bodies of its members were found in the bush. A source said that several other people were injured in the fresh attack, which took place around 5 in the morning on Wednesday. According to a source, the gunmen invaded the village and started shooting indiscriminately while the residents scampered for safety. Although the Kaduna police have not confirmed the latest attack, the Kajuru local government chairman, Mr. Kafra Kaino, said 9 people lost their lives in the attack. He said the timely intervention of security operatives prevented more casualties in the attack. Federal government moves to legalize artisanal refiners. Stay tuned for details on the business segment of the news. Welcome to the business segment of the news. The nation's foreign reserves rose by $2.7 billion in May after declining for several months. Figures from the Central Bank of Nigeria has shown, according to the CBN, the foreign reserves, which stood at $33.52 billion as of April 30, 2020, rose to $36.59 billion as of May 29, 2020. The reserves had plunged to a record low after hitting a high of $45.17 billion on June 11, 2019, losing over $11 billion in almost 11 months. According to the International Monetary Fund, Nigeria's main export commodity is crude oil, which represents around 90% of its exports. The federal government, through the Department of Petroleum Resources, has put on offer 57 marginal fields for licensing as part of efforts to develop oil and gas discoveries that had been left unattended to for many years. The bid round is open to indigenous companies and investors interested in participating in the exploration and production business in Nigeria. The DPR said a total of 57 fields located on land, swamp, and shallow offshore terrains are on offer. The new licensing round is the first marginal field round since 2003. The federal government had disclosed that it was developing a policy towards legalizing the operations of the illegal crude oil refineries in order to make petroleum products available and affordable for Nigerians. The government also noted when the effort sees through, petrol is expected to sell between 80 naira and 90 naira per litre in the country. Senior Special Advisor to the President on Niger Delta Affairs, Senator Ita Enang, who disclosed this while speaking with newsmen in Abuja, said government was determined to initiate programs that will encourage local refining of the crude oil in order to make the product available in the country. Senator Enang noted further that with the recent removal of fuel subsidy, for the nation to solely depend on the product importation will be counterproductive in a population of over 200 million people. The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries and its allies, led by Russia, are moving closer to a compromise on extending current oil output cuts and are discussing a proposal to roll over supply curbs for 1 to 2 months. The international oil price benchmark Brent crude stood at $38.57 per barrel. OPEC and its allies, a group called OPEC Plus, decided in April to cut output by a record 9.7 million barrels per day, or about 10% of global output, to lift prices battered by a demand linked to lockdown measures aimed at stopping the spread of the coronavirus. OPEC said that rather than easing output cuts in July, the de facto OPEC leader, Saudi Arabia, was leading discussions on sustaining them until the end of the year. The national electricity grid collapsed on Tuesday, a development that threw parts of the country into blackout for hours, but the transmission company of Nigeria stated that it restored about 90% of the power system, adding that the grid would be fully restored in due course. It was learned that the grid collapsed around 11 in the morning on Tuesday, while a total of 2,774.9 megawatts of electricity was generated on the grid as of 6 in the morning the same day. A study of the country's latest power generation performance figures show that a peak generation of 4,785.4 megawatts was recorded on Monday. Pension fund administrators have gradually reduced investment of pension funds in the contributory pension scheme in treasury bills. The National Pension Commission revealed that operators have increased their investments in commercial papers and bank placements. Latest statistics from PENCOM show that the PFAs reduced the investment of the funds in Federal Government of Nigeria treasury bills from 2.26 trillion naira in September 2019, when the total fund was 9.5 trillion naira, to 1.36 trillion naira in February 2020, when the total fund was 10.5 trillion naira. The operators increased investment of the funds in local money market securities, which included bank placements, commercial papers, from 1.15 trillion naira in October 2019 to 1.66 trillion naira in February 2020. And that was the business segment of the news. On the world today, protesters in the United States continue to defer curfews. More on the foreign news segment. Nationwide protests against police brutality in the U.S. have seen thousands of people demonstrating in close quarters